think about who we want, which is what happened that it worked out with our conversation. We're going to be talking about relationships tonight. Our whole season's going to be based on relationship, community, how to grow them, that kind of stuff. Tess and I come from very diverse backgrounds, so it's kind of good, fun conversation. And what we're going to do is, as we introduce different people in the community, we're going to invite them to either stick around or not stay to be a part of that conversation about that. So, like tonight, we'd be talking about relationships and how we can pursue that, so that we can create the backdrop of the rest of the conversation for the season. Because again, our grand opening tomorrow. As far as panels go, what we actually tend to have people in the audience, and it's a little bit better this year than it was last year because we just have a little bit more opportunity. We can now actually field the questions from the audience, or they can add to it. They won't be on camera, but their voice will be picked up. So we actually have had a couple of conversations like that. It's 7? All right.
I'm getting out the way.
All right, go ahead. All right, move it. That's okay. And, no, you can stay. You should stay there. You're part of the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Are we good? Are we going? We're ready to go?
We are ready to go.
I am taking my seat here, and
You're
where did
live.
Which side is best?
It's okay, sir.
Sure. What? This is making no. Oh, anyways. Oh, I'm here. There. Which one am I at? I'm on that one. Welcome to Udicci.TV. You know what tonight is? Tonight is the night before tomorrow, and honestly, that's what this show is all about. It's about tomorrow. Yes, literally tomorrow, our grand opening, and you got to come out, Studio 252 at the Hungerford, so yes, it's about that. But it's also about tomorrow, which is probably about the time that Tess will recall that tonight is Thursday. And she was going to be bringing a special guest with her tonight. And notice that Tess is not here. Her seat is still vacant, but yet these are the things we've come to expect of Tess. Any minute now, I'm thinking that she's going to come bursting right through that door and say, no, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, but maybe not. And she always says that this is kind of the fun thing about what we do is live TV, that whatever happens, happens. So as it stands right now, I'm just kind of going to have to carry this show as a one-man show, but luckily, a greater man than I sits in the audience tonight, and we will have a guest. They may be one and the same. All right, we are here to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow is our grand opening, but when we talk about tomorrow, it is that we just want people to have really some hope. And we are tonight going to be talking about tomorrow as a new show that's going to be on Udicci.TV. Jerry Falzone is here with us, and we will be talking about, I believe the name that we're working with right now is Beyond the Lyric. I'm getting the head shakes from all of the top-notch producers in the background. So Beyond the Lyrics is currently the working title that we are working with. If you've been watching us, you know that our sets have been changing quite a bit, but what you don't know is what's happened behind the scenes. Okay, behind the scenes is that way, and I guess what I should mean is within the studio. I feel very confident in saying this. We now have Rochester's only social media studio. Okay, I know. A lot of people go, no, I have one in my house. I've got it downstairs. I'm like, that's cool. But do you have a place where you can actually just get together, live stream, make real content, sit around, have conversations in that room, and multiple rooms, and live stream it? Maybe even make sitcoms or do improv, as we're sort of counting on doing this year. And with that, of course, we will have some Real Talk 360 tonight. I do know that at least Julio is here, and there's a good chance that Tag might show up something like Tess does. All right. So tonight I am having a conversation about relationships. That's what we promised you last week. We promised that you would have a conversation about relationships to give us the backdrop of the entire year. And as you see here, I have a problem. I have a problem right out of the get-go, because to me, a relationship requires something greater than myself. So I really don't know how to have a conversation about relationships by myself. So I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and go to break. And when we come back, Jerry Falzone is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about Beyond the Lyric. All right.
So to find this station, it's you just put in
Udicci.TV.
Udicci.TV.
Yeah, just drop the com. Everybody drop the com. It's just .tv. Really hip, cool people use .tv. And then if you're really hip and cool, you use like .me. Okay, I feel a little bit weird though. I feel like we're completely out of balance.
Would you like me to move over there?
No, I'll move over there, but I just think in any relationship it's important to be in balance. All right, we're moving over there.
You move over there.
We're checking this
I'm
out. See-
totally comfortable right
You're
here.
totally comfortable? Oh, and look, it looks like the lighting, Tim. The light, oh, that,
Look at
okay.
that.
The lighting, much, oh, but now the camera is, you gotta see, he's off a little.
Would you like me to
Which one?
move?
No, which one was that? We have fun with this, by the way. There we go.
Then it moved back.
Okay, whatever. The imperfections of live stream social media. Oh, hey, look, Tess is going to join us.
Hi, Tess.
This is a special night. This is a special night. Tess Padmore has decided to join the show.
Stop it.
got more excuses,
I
and I
don't
don't
even
know
know her
what.
and I like her already.
Everybody loves Tess. We're actually,
Well, hello, Tess. How are
How
you? Very nice meeting
Nice to
you.
meet you.
yeah, we actually are. We're starting a show. It's called Everybody Loves Tess.
Oh, stop.
We're very original around here with our titles.
Well, every
So-
show's got to have their tag.
Every show's got to have their tag. Tag's on tonight at 8. If he shows up.
If he shows up.
Oh, Tag would be a person.
Yes.
Tag would be a person
Oh, okay,
if
I'm
we allowed him to
thinking
be.
Tag.
No, he's a
Okay.
person.
So tonight, as you recall, we were talking about relationships,
Yes.
and that got very difficult because I was the only one here.
At 7. You
At
talked,
7!
you talked about relationships and already what you should have been doing until I got here was promoting tomorrow.
He did
Oh,
that.
we did that.
But it's at great length.
I did that.
It was great length.
Well, you're a musician, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, see. So you should be able
Well, there
to
were some
improvise.
points that she just made. She made a really
I
good
just said.
point.
I just said.
You are a musician.
You missed it.
Well, see?
What you,
That was a great point. I
Yeah.
see.
See, you
because
didn't hear what I
when you're a
said.
musician, timing is everything.
But you can improvise. That was the point I was making.
So you were testing
Wow.
my improv skills.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Well,
I appreciate that.
He did a good job. He was,
He's fine.
yeah. he
And
did
you're
a good job.
you're gonna have your own show, right?
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
So why don't you ask? Why don't, because you know nothing about it,
No,
except for
no.
I've told you about it probably 15 times. We can't. We're live. The whole world's watching, so we can't like just throw Tess under the bus. But
Sure you
sometimes-
can. I can
sometimes-
improvise.
Sometimes she forgets.
I'm good on my feet. Don't-
She seems to be
don't-
doing fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes she forgets.
No, I don't.
She blames. She blames.
It's
a
it's
damaged
an
frontal lobe.
AP's job to be able to improv, think on their feet.
And she has not yet once dropped a pen.
There you go.
That's it.
Or a
she's
no.
that's the part. She's the straight person.
Not the straight person.
No, you're the straight. Yeah. Anyways,
Well, tell me a little bit about your music.
About my music or about the
Because you're a musician,
Yes,
so I
I
want to know a
am.
little
I'm,
bit about
well,
your music.
I'm primarily a songwriter.
Oh, okay.
That's what I do.
Alright.
And I have a very deep passion for other songwriters.
Mhm.
And that's what our show's going to be about, is other songwriters.
Okay.
And it'll be, partially a performance thing as well as interview.
Is it only lyricists or?
No,
Okay.
nope, songwriters.
Okay.
The whole package will have to be here. Otherwise, we would have somebody sitting in a chair reciting lyrics, and
Yeah.
that gets to be very boring.
You know who's my favorite songwriter? Well, I shouldn't say favorite. I have a favorite composer. James Horner is my favorite composer. And I like Thomas Newman. But I read an article about her. I didn't know who she was, but the article was about what a great songwriter she was, and her lyrics and all that is Lucinda Williams.
Oh, yeah.
So I went and I bought one of her CDs. I didn't know anything about her. And listening to the first album that I bought, I said, holy cow, this woman has to be at least in her 40s or 50s. Do you know? I mean, that was the
she's in her
first.
50s, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Just hearing the lyrics, I said, because this is a woman who has lived a life and never have the words have just come off the page like that. She even wrote a song called Words on Out West. See, I told you I could do it on my feet.
what do you mean? What do you mean? Tess, we never doubted you could do it on your feet. We just never wondered if the guests could talk.
Well,
You see how he insults me? Oh my
What? Did I?
gosh.
No. Last week you told me the guests have to talk.
Lucinda Williams.
Well, on that note,
Lucinda
do
Williams
you
was here
mean?
last week, or last year.
last
No,
year.
wait. We
She was
can't
here
go
last year.
here.
I see her every time.
This
she
affects our relationship here.
comes. Yeah.
Yeah, what we need to know. Why?
Well, Julio never tells Tad to be quiet,
The whole world tells Tag to be quiet.
but not Julio.
Julio? No comment.
He respects Tad on the
So
show.
I actually, no. I was having a little fun because I wanted to kind of break in. You talked about the song Words that she wrote. I'm curious about that song. Because from what I hear you talking about, she was probably one of the first female composers who was able to really put through lyrics something that sang to you.
It wasn't so much that. It's just that I write, but you know, a lot of songs that you will hear, they're very empty and they're repetitive. You know, it's the same words in a one song 100,000 times, over and over and over and over and over. So you feel as though there's not really any thought. But her songs tell a story. There's a young musician. I don't know if you've heard of her, Liz Wright. She's a jazz musician. I've seen her a couple of times, but she's young. And I met her and I was talking to her and I said, when is the next album going to come out? She says, well, you know, I got to live a little bit of life first. You understand?
I
mean, that is
understand
just,
that. Yeah.
that's just incredible. But in the song Words, she talks about what it's like to write. And she talks about vowels and how words are falling off the page. And it's just, but I'll let the guests speak.
No, you were doing a great job.
It is a really interesting thing. I used to think at different points that I will never be able to write another song, because you go through that thing where all of a sudden there's no songs coming out. You think, oh my God, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then I just realized a while ago, fortunately quite a while ago, that what it really is that it's time for you to live life for a little while so that you have something to write about. And I really have never thought about a dry spell since then. I just kind of realized there is no such thing as a dry spell. There is a spell where you have to
live.
You have to live. You got to start filling up the well again, and it works almost every time.
Yeah, and I just thought that was because I think she's maybe at the time, because I go down to Philadelphia to see her all the time. She's maybe 23, 24. She's this incredible voice. But when she said that, you know, she says, yeah, I got to live with them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Which makes perfect sense. But that coming back to the well, you have to have these experiences so that you can tell the story, whatever the story might be.
Yeah, otherwise you find yourself getting involved in, you know, writing very cliched stories. You know, boy meets girl.
Right.
You know, and after a while that gets to be very, very mundane.
Yeah.
That's power. That's power. And every now and then this happens, and unfortunately, that will get picked up on the microphone.
When I was just coming in, I guess there's a machine shop or something over there.
Yeah, they create power.
And they're over there just like revving
And
up
it's,
these engines.
you know, in fact, I mean, we're sitting here on the industrial center, right, of Rochester from years ago. I mean, these train tracks, they bring power. They're kind of a lot of fun.
Nothing's going to fall in on us, all right?
No, nothing at all.
We don't know.
I mean, come on, these are like
We
the
don't
most
know.
sturdy
If
buildings.
anything falls, it's going to
These
be
are
this
the
frickin'
most
floor.
sturdy buildings that have probably ever been built.
I know. They'll last forever.
I want to come back though. You were saying that, so if you start to go through a dry spell, you kind of know at that point is when you have to, explore something more? I wasn't...
You can do anything. You can walk down the street with your dogs. You can, you know, take a nap. You can walk on the beach, because we've got a lot of them around here. But it's just time to start breathing a little bit, and the big thing is don't worry about it.
Right.
Because when you start worrying about it, that's when you start trying to force things. When you start trying to force things, that's when you get things that aren't real. And if you want to really create something that's part of you, then you have to let it kind of create itself. You know, writing songs, really probably writing anything, but writing songs for me, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like hunting. You know, you're not gonna force something out that you're gonna shoot. You have to kind of coax it out. Not that I would shoot anything, because I really don't hunt or anything on that level, but I always but I always did kind of look at it that way. You know, that you know, if you coax something out and it comes out naturally, you're good. If you're just trying to get something out, then it doesn't.
You need it sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask actually, so on Beyond the Lyric, are we going to... I'm just trying to follow your I guess your process a little bit. When you talk to other songwriters, what can we expect to hear from them? I mean, as a fellow songwriter, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you first off what I don't expect to hear from them. You know, the kind of questions I'm not going to ask, what comes first, chorus or the verse? how do you come up with your song titles? I don't really care about all that stuff.
Right.
That's all, it's all process.
No, we're cut off. One of the cameras cut off.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, do you see the other camera?
It's more mechanical, I think.
It went blank. No, it's not aligned. It's all good. Right, so
Yeah.
exactly. This is not about the mechanics, nor even necessarily the composition.
It has very little to do, hopefully, with the song. What I want to do is I want to find out why people write what they do, not how they do it. How they do it is, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
But, to get into the story of why people are compelled to put their experiences down on paper and what is it that started them off and this sort of thing. We did this show quite a while ago, 2009, 2010, and one of the most fascinating shows that I had was with a local songwriter whose name was Tim Shea. And Tim had a heart attack at 48. He lived to be 58, and we interviewed him 6 months before he died. The heart attack that he had was born out from a lifetime of drug addiction, of alcoholism, and when he was 48 and had his heart attack, he thought, I can never work again. I've got to find something else to do. So he learned how to play guitar. So at 48, he picked up a guitar for the first time, and then for the next 10 years became a really incredible songwriter. But what I found most fascinating is why he had become a heroin addict, what made him want to pick up a guitar, how did he learn how to get to the point in a really short period of time of writing songs that really hit people in a real deep way. And it just became a really fascinating story. So, that's what I'm looking for.
That's incredible.
Yes, songwriters who there's a lot of people who write songs out there. There's not that many songwriters. Really good, solid people who have the experience behind them to make songs work, to make their experiences really translate. And the most important thing to me in a song is to be able to take a very large universal idea and translate it into something very personal. When you can do that, that means you're going to hit the most amount of people with what you're doing, and you can transform some lives. And that really is something that I've been about with what I do, is to help people transform their lives a little bit.
What's fascinating about that is the way you described it. Is I guess the way I see writing in general, whether it's a song or whether you write books, because really that's what it is, you're writing. And particularly when you're talking about, if it were a writing genre, we would talk about creative nonfiction, right?
Right.
That's what we would be talking about. Because I didn't start writing until I was 48.
Really?
Yeah, after a catastrophic illness. And then there was so much to tell, but I never had a medium to tell it. When I found the medium, then the stories came. So it's really interesting that you say that, and it's like you said, because I always wonder, my curiosity when it comes to songwriting is, because people have said to me, well, why don't you put your stuff to music? So that's always been I guess the kernel that I'm trying to understand. How does someone take their writing and put it to music? Like, I will hear music that will trigger writing, usually if I sit down to write, I can hear from my database of songs in my head, there's always a soundtrack to a piece that I'm writing. So I'm always curious, do you have to be a musician in order to write a song? Do you have to know music? Because you can write, whether you're a songwriter or just a writer, you can write, but how do you...
You would have to collaborate.
Okay.
But, you can, without being a musician, certainly come up with a melody. You may sing in the shower, so where that melody comes from, somebody who knows where to take that melody and how to build a structure underneath it would probably be a real beneficial thing. My brother writes scripts. He's done some movies out in Chicago. He's done a lot of theater. He's written just a tremendous amount of scripts. And we were talking one time about it, and I can't understand how you can sit down and write a 2-hour movie or write a 3-act play with all this stuff going on. He said, are you kidding me? That's nothing. Because I can't believe that you can get a whole story together in a 3-minute song. You know, so it's a perspective thing. So, you know, writing is, poetry is so much different than lyrics. Writing a book is so much different than writing a script. Writing a magazine article is so much different than writing a newspaper article. It's all different, but it's its own entity. And it takes its own kind of discipline. It takes its own kind of structure to be able to get the story across. I remember when I was in college, I took a journalism course, and they talked about how you write in a pyramid, where your first sentence or your first paragraph basically tells the whole story, and then you pare down on the details in that pyramid. And I thought, that's kind of a really cool thing when you look at it that way, because it's a newspaper. But if you're writing a book, you want it to go the other way. You want to give as little up front as you can, so that when the end of that book happens in a song, it's like that first verse is almost always really easy. The second verse is really what makes you a songwriter. First verse, you're inspired to write, I mean, it's there. You know what you want to say. The second verse is the one where you go, okay, well, now I've got that established. Where am I going to take it, and how am I going to make that work? And it's, when I had read that somewhere, and I went, wow, that's really true. And when I started thinking about that, I pay so much more attention to what I do after the inspiration's gone. I really want to know what's going on, in that second verse or in that third verse that I'm writing, or in the bridge that I'm writing. And how does the story come across in that? How do you build on the story? And, where are you taking it? Can you bring somebody along with you emotionally? There's so much that's involved, because music is so much more of a, obviously a visceral thing, I think, than just sitting down and reading something, because you've got this music going around with it, and your lyrics have a soundtrack to it, like you're talking about. When you're writing to some music, a lot of people will have classical music on while they're trying to write whatever they have to write, because it just kind of gives them that picture of what they want to do, and it just helps to get the words flowing a little bit more.
I'm looking forward to that show.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a wonderful show. And I think that what we are going to actually be doing, and we'll take a little break, and we'll come back, and we'll just talk a couple about the mechanics of the show, like how often we think we might do that, what that might look like, some very basics. And then if we want to jump into our topic for the night of relationship, you're welcome to stick around for that. I'd like for you to stick around for that if you could. We'll come back with that. And there's something you were just saying that really inspired me to write this down. It's simply that each person has their own voice.
And you have to find it.
And you have to find it. And if you will, for us, when we came into this space, we didn't know what to do. I kept saying, this has to be our blank canvas. This has to be our blank canvas. And to date, if you will, this is my best. This is my best at trying to even help people see a bigger vision. I mean, it's taken however many years to get to a point where we can be, living down by the river, if you will, but in this
That'd make a great song title. Down by the river, I like that.
Well, it's a little Chris Farley reference there on that side, but I think that's exactly it. I think all of us have a song within us. All of us have a phrase within us. All of us have something
There's a story
that they just want to say. I was talking with Allison the other day. I said, what is the phrase that if you could scream at the top of your lungs, you would want the whole world to hear? And why is that one phrase so important to you? What about that phrase is what you want? So now, after that, tell me how you present it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it doesn't necessarily need to be screamed.
Well, and I think what you said is really true. It's finding your voice. Because I know for me, for so many years, I felt like I was at the bottom of a well and no one could hear me. But when I found my voice, I don't feel like that anymore.
Right. That is so correct. I was 50 before I really started going out and performing. I mean, I should really qualify that. I've been performing all my life. I was a bass player for, many, many years. I was on the road for a long time, playing bass. But when I was 50, I kind of put that side of it away, and I picked up a guitar and I started singing for the first time. And it took a long time to really kind of get comfortable with that. And I would say probably after about 5 years of doing that, I really felt like, hey, I'm finding this, I'm finding my voice. I got to the point where I could, play alongside great singers, I mean, really tremendous singers, and not feel like I was out of place. So it was kind of an interesting thing to go through. But yeah, finding your voice is a real important thing. I mean, for me, it was a literal finding your voice, but finding your voice in writing, finding your voice in, I mean, it could be anything. It could be in acting, it could be in being an engineer.
Right.
Finding your way of expressing yourself is critical.
So when we come back, let's talk about whether or not relationships should. Is it a requirement? Or is it good, at least, for a relationship to help each person find their own voice? Okay. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Get something to drink. One of the things we're trying to figure out is the pacing, because right, today we're running 100,000 miles an hour, right? And Tess has brought this up that sometimes we'll be having a joke, like we'll be in a joking mood, and also on the next show we'll have a very serious type thing, and we're trying to figure out where those things are. Because she and I do it. Like any given week we joke around, and then I'm like, but now I was expecting somebody to be with you tonight. Which, when we do a season, we don't necessarily, we should call it a series. So, I'll come back. First, let me come back to David Michael Miller. Before we go, I want to apologize to you. My little, sarcasm, I think it offended you earlier when I said that Jerry couldn't talk, so I'm sorry.
When you said what now?
That you weren't letting your guest talk.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're the one that never lets the guest talk.
Well, I think she insulted you.
Your apologies accepted, Chuck.
Anyways, so tonight our set's a little bit messed up.
Really well.
Tonight our set's a little messed up, but
I like this better.
it's better, but we get the cameras are a little bit. But if you will, tonight's all about tomorrow. Tomorrow, David Michael Miller, right here,
Love
live
David.
You
stream.
gonna try to come?
I'm going to try to. I love David. I've seen him. I've had him at the Tango a few times. I've played with him a couple times. I love him. He's great.
Incredible musician. Right here tomorrow night, live from about 7 to 9 ish. Obviously, we just kind of run with things as we run with them. So
I've been trying to tell us.
I was going to make a tough joke about time, but so I was just going to go back to that. So a little bit. Why I bring up the David Michael Miller? Obviously, music was a big part of last year's Udicci.TV launch with Amanda Ashley. We had the afternoon cocktail brand that we started there, and Amanda's out on tour, and I'm still convinced that she's not watched any of the shows where we talk about it, and I'm still convinced that she doesn't know that she actually won the ratings war last year. So we're going to continue to talk about Amanda on the internet because she's Miss Internet promotion. So we're going to keep talking well of her until she figures out that we're talking about her. But no, she's got in 30 cities. You guys, are you tracking where she's going?
I know she was in Nashville. I saw that.
Yeah, I can't.
I think she's in New Orleans now. She just finished up in New Orleans.
So she's just traveling around.
Yeah.
Touring and eating her way through America.
Well, that's I think she told me it was a 30-city tour when I didn't realize it was actually 5 cities, 6 restaurants.
Wow. You may never see her again.
No. I asked her to bring back some crawfish. I'm like, would you please bring back some crawfish? All she does likes.
After a couple days, they start to smell kind of bad. Just so that you know.
I got and I had no idea that she was coming through Virginia. Actually, coming through Virginia, we were driving home from South Carolina one time. My wife lives down there, and David was playing in Virginia, and he just posted on Facebook. And I was like an hour out of Virginia. I was like, I had to stop for dinner, so we showed up for David in Virginia, and it's really funny when you just do that kind of out of the element thing. It's like, what are you doing? But, so we have to support. So everybody in Virginia, go support Amanda Ashley. So the afternoon cocktail, we're actually going to put Beyond the Lyric under the afternoon cocktail
I
brand.
like that Beyond the Lyric.
And that, so we can kind of continue, where we did last year. And Amanda's already said that she'll be involved when she gets back. And I'm like, if I had a choice between touring and being a rock straight. Tour.
I've toured. You may change your mind.
mind
if you
after
try.
all
Well, maybe once.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe the first time.
Yeah, I did that for 8 or 9 years. It was always nice to come home.
Yeah.
I traveled a lot for work, but
Yeah,
so
I
let's
did
talk about the Beyond the Lyric. How are we seeing this play out? What do you? How do you want to move forward?
I have a whole list of people that I want to interview.
Okay.
I see it being, I'm not sure how often we want to do it yet. It'd be really nice to be able to do 3 shows at one time and use them down the road at different times. But however you want to do it, makes, as long as we can make it make sense in the schedule that I have, it's a great idea. It's a great show. We have so many wonderful songwriters in this area. And now with the things I'm doing, I'm bringing in songwriters from Buffalo, Detroit, and Point East to here that we could also utilize for this. So it'd be a very cool thing to be able to do with more than just local songwriters.
So it sounds like one of the things that's coming out of this whole exercise, having this space, it's sort of planning shows, getting them in the can, and then, because
Yeah.
we've talked about doing that with a couple other things as well. Just record a few shows, and then you can always stream them.
Absolutely.
You know, or stream them multiple times.
And, there's so much more that you can do with them down the road too, but, to be able to archive them and utilize them down the road for whatever you want to do is a very nice thing to do.
And open to having a live audience?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we have a live audience on these shows.
Peanut gallery.
And, yeah, what do we think? Like an hour a piece, roughly?
Half hour.
Half-hour shows?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, if you do an hour, then even the most interesting songwriters can get really boring really quickly.
Okay.
But you do half an hour and you have them play a couple of songs, then you've got a pretty nice show.
So about 15 minutes of actual interview?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Might be fun to try to do, I don't know if we could pull it off, but
Songwriter that can only...
Pardon?
A songwriter that can only last through a 15-minute interview.
Yeah, most songwriters, they burn out after half an hour anyway.
Hey, Brian. So we'll work on the dates, we'll work on the schedules, but I was just thinking it might be kind of fun to try to do an after party on one of the first Fridays. Like maybe we could start at like 9 o'clock, as an after party.
Sure.
And have it go until like 9 to 11 or something on a Friday night. And
Yeah.
try to see if we can pick up some audience and give people a reason to come out from there. All right, so we're going to let people know more about the that show as we get that going, and now we're going to just kind of transition into our show and talk about relationships here a little bit. And just to kind of recap and why we're actually doing this is that Tess and I talked last week, and we wanted to make sure the show was a little bit more uniform, that it had a format each week, and kind of moving forward. The show's name is Verbal, and it comes right down to the meaning of word, right? So when you're talking about somebody actually composing a song called Word, it kind of makes sense that,
Love that song.
right, we're sitting here talking about it. And for us, in the economic development and the community development, the whole idea of our 2015 mantra being cause freedom, absolutely helping people find their own voice is a big part of really helping people. But we're talking that relationship, if you will, is kind of the beginning of community, of kind of anything else. And we wanted to, you suggested that we put a backdrop to what we mean by relationship as we then embrace in the next 8 to 12 weeks around this topic of relationship.
Identify what the underlying theme is of the show for this year. And one of the things that Chuck was interested was relationships. So I said, well, then maybe let's think of it like a tree. The underpinning, the root of it is relationship, and then as we move into the branches, those are the different shows, and you can look at relationships in many different ways, whether they're personal, whether they're business, or whatever they might be, and then you could build each show around that subject, but still with the underpinning of relationships.
So in general terms, like, where do we even start this? Because it's interesting. I say relationship. I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and now this starts to come into beliefs, right? Each person has their own beliefs on things, and I was having a conversation with somebody who is, I guess, an existentialist, and we were talking, and she has her very solid beliefs, and I was like, that the only thing there is the individual. There's nothing greater than the individual. I mean, that's very much right into, who's that? Not Pavel.
You're looking at the wrong person.
Okay, the hierarchy of needs thing, self-actualization.
Oh, that one.
Maslow.
Okay,
thank you.
Maslow.
Self-actualization, hierarchy
Yeah.
of needs. And she's like, no, the highest, is the self-actualization of the person. That's your existentialist. And I asked, I said, well, what about relationships? Where do relationships fit in that world? Because if the greatest thing you can find is yourself, then what do we do with relationships? And I asked, don't relationships exist outside of the individual? And she said, no. She said, that's how you would see them, but that's not how I would see them. So I found that to be a very interesting topic, and saying, okay, now obviously she's married, she's got children, she has an idea of what a relationship is. So I'm going, a relationship is not self-evident, right? So when we think through relationships, what is a relationship?
I think to ask her some questions. No.
Well, I'm asking you guys because I don't know. She just completely threw me for a loop.
listening to how she defined that, and I'd be curious to. I guess I just don't see. The
Surely
world.
she'd do a much better job of
Well,
defining her.
She's a mother,
Yep,
she's a wife,
yeah.
yet she's the most important thing. She's
She wouldn't say that she's the most important by any means. It's just that self-actualization, right? And in some ways, it starts to end at faith. If the greatest thing you'll discover is your true self. Now, your true self may be that of mother, that of wife. That is part of your true self, but it's still self to her. And again, I don't want to speak for her. I don't want to speak for her.
I guess
Yeah.
on some,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
on some level, I understand that. I'm still grappling with the idea that I is the center. You know, I have trouble with I as the center.
Right.
I don't see myself as the center, but going along with what you just said, I do know that I have very strong maternal instincts, have always had them. And so part of having a child is, again, like we talked about, finding that voice. Having that child allows me to self-actualize my feelings, my maternal feelings. But I still don't see myself as the center of that I.
Well, which is interesting, right? Now
I mean,
coming
I
back
could be wrong,
to...
but I'm just saying that,
You have thought.
I remember when my first wife was pregnant. I had a very interesting revelation. I won't exactly say how that came about, but I had an interesting revelation that if I was having my first, and it's turned out first of many, kid.
how many are there?
Well, I married another woman who had 3 of them, so now I got 4 altogether. So, but
not many.
but if I'm having my own kid, if this woman is having my child, and if that child grows up to have other children, I'll never die.
Well, you know, my mother and I kind of had that conversation too, because if you go to the next step, well, does that mean that if you have no children, when you die, that's all there is? You know, that brings it to a close. But then as I got older, my mom's gone now, but as I got older, my thinking on that changed. I mean, yeah, physically, you know, you're kind of passing this thing on. But I think even greater than that, how we live on is in the relationships and the impact we have on other people's lives. My mother had foster children. My mother had adopted children in addition to me. And when she died, those children were with her and I couldn't be there. And so she lives on in those children who are not hers.
That will go through for a couple of generations for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The revelation that I had was that if I'm not going to die, as long as you take your ego out of it, you know, you got to take the I out of it. You take that out of it. That if I'm not going to die, that means that all the people that were behind me,
That's right.
they didn't die either.
That's
I'm carrying that right
Yes, you
now.
are.
And so it actually gave me a real sense of comfort. Now I also happen to believe very strongly in an afterlife. So the spiritual side of that is totally different. But the idea of potentially being immortal on Earth was a really cool thing to think about, because I'd never looked at it that way until I was within a few months of having my own kid. So it just, you just made me think about that.
Yeah, well, we carry I believe that too. I believe in afterlife, all that. But we carry our ancestors with us. They're with us.
Yeah.
They're part of who we are. I mean, that's the conversation I have with my grandson.
Yep. It's a good one to have.
That's the conversation.
Because
I have with him.
it does give you a whole different sense of responsibility. You know, if all these people are behind you, if they're all a part of you, then you're not just responsible for what you do with yourself. You're carrying on this whole family leg on your back.
And taking it forward.
And taking it forward.
Let me jump in there. I think that that's an interesting point that you said, like that there's a sense of responsibility. So is there a sense of responsibility when you have a relationship?
Sure. I think so, yeah.
Isn't it? So it starts to feel like to actually acknowledge a relationship almost has to be for the purpose of creating something of greater value, greater something. Because if you have a sense of responsibility about simply burdening or taking the relationship, it's like now you have to add something because the relationship exists. I guess I'm almost talking this out more than I'm...
If you don't add something to a relationship, it's not a relationship. Then all
Okay.
you do, then you're a taker.
Right.
You have to give.
It,
So-
it has to be give and take. It has to be give and take, because otherwise, at some point, it'll just die. I think that's why some relationships end.
So relationships must nurture.
I think they do have to nurture.
And relationships, interestingly, so now to kind of jump back, do you believe that they exist independent of the individual?
No, not by definition.
No, I don't think so either. No.
So you don't think that so like, if you will, I'm married,
Mhm.
right? That we have a relationship which is a different thing other than my wife and myself, right? Don't we give into it, or is it strictly just two people? Is there a relationship in a corporation? How about a corporation to a community?
I think it could be more than two people, but I don't think that your relationship with your wife is separate from you and your wife.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if I mean for it to be separate, but it does seem to have its own. It has boundaries different than mine. It has characteristics different than me.
Well, but
Right?
that's because you're bringing two people together. So the relationship I have with my spouse might be different than the relationship I have with my friends.
And
but
typically, it can't be. Interestingly, you can't give more to the relationship than you are. So, but yet the relationship is always greater than two individuals. Yet it's not all that we are.
You can give more to a relationship than you think you are,
right.
because you grow within a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The more you grow within a relationship, the more you have to give.
So you actually are giving this relationship something you don't have to give, but in doing so, you become it.
I don't think it's that you become it. It's organic, and so
Well, isn't that
it's no. I
becoming?
mean, it's growing, it's changing for the good or for the
become
bad.
what thou art?
What now?
Become what thou art. That's the whole, right? And in organic, you get planted like the great oak must from the acorn start. So we are endeavor to become what thou art, right? I mean, we just have to.
You're making my eyeballs.
I'm
really
sorry.
big.
I'm just trying to really get to what the backdrop is of a relationship, because what we're seeing here, and your exact point. Now, let me jump off. Right, we went really deep. Let me jump off, and I brought up, corporations, and because we deal in economy and in community, and we don't often get into the economy side of things, but more the community side. Certainly, there are relationships in a community too, which are, there's Kodak has a relationship with Rochester. So it's interesting, right? There's other multiple forms of relationships, but we still have to either recognize them or participate in them or something.
Right.
So I think, do we need to actually come to a definition of that, or do you think that people generally understand when we say relationship?
I think that people generally understand now how one person's ideal relationship might be another person's. How those two people end up together exactly, kind of thing. But as long as they get it,
Most times they don't.
I know that's why it doesn't last. Like, why are we even together 30 years later?
So that's a great. So we'll be exploring relationships. So by the way, what time is it? See, we're so high tech. We have all that information. Right, it's perfect. 7:54. What's that? What do you mean we have to wrap up?
Well,
we have 6 minutes.
You should be letting
That's like the
you should be
eternity.
letting Tim tell us that. You shouldn't pull out your phone and look at
He
your
did.
phone.
He
and see
showed
what
it to
time
me
it is.
earlier.
But you
Are
didn't
you
believe
trying
him,
to
so
throw-
you lifted out.
Are
you
you trying
pulled
to
out
throw
your
him into the
phone.
computer?
No, I'm telling you.
Okay.
You should be letting him do that.
Anyways, all right. So we're going to be wrapping up our show
broke
here
the
tonight,
momentum
and
of
we
the
want
show.
to. Okay, it was a little bit. You know, I think our pacing, we need to work on our
develop a
pacing.
relationship with Tim.
I
Yes.
do. No, I'm good with Tim.
Yes.
It's Tess
Have
throwing
faith-
Tim under the
have-
bus.
I
saw
wasn't.
it.
No. I was
did,
throwing
you
you
just
under the bus. I was
Oh,
throwing Tim
here
under
we
the
go.
bus.
You're throwing
Did you
me
see
under
that?
the bus?
He said I was throwing
Are
Tim
you
under the
kidding
bus.
me?
No, I'm saying let it.
All right, all
Tim
right.
has it. Tim is
I'm
good.
done. I'm done.
Let him
Hey,
just
look,
give you
Tag
a
is
signal.
here on time.
Oh.
Okay,
That
so
would be
we
Tag. That
have
came in.
Tag is on time.
Hi,
and
Tag.
we're
How
kinda
you
good
doing?
with this.
Who's Tag?
Tag's over here. He's the
Sitting
quiet
there
one.
with the phone.
He's the straight one.
Tag.
So, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to taking the next steps on Beyond the Lyric.
Yeah, me too.
I look forward to the
So
show.
I feel our last little relationship thing was a little bit. I put that. So how did you feel about making this transition into a much more completely different conversation as a guest?
How'd I feel about it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize we did
That's
that.
what I was going to say. Didn't
Okay.
feel any different. We were
Okay,
just
good.
talking.
Good. 'Cause I'm just
It
trying to
was
get some
an
feedback.
organic flow that.
It was organic. So like something was planted, but something else
something
came
must
up, right?
grow.
Because- yeah, test. Like, no. If you plant a seed, something else will grow. All right. No. Plant corn, you'll get corn.
It's amazing what will happen when we have a camera in front of people who don't know each other. Just, I love it. Hello, guys.
We've never met. We've never met. All right, so we're going to be closing up again. Thank you for coming on
Thank
tonight.
you. Nice meeting you.
And
You too.
tomorrow night, again, we got to make a big deal out of
Yep.
tomorrow night. It is our grand opening, and seriously, if you haven't stopped out, if you didn't stop out last year, you're definitely going to want to stop out now. The place is really looking great. To me, it's like we finally reached
I like
our
it.
blank canvas.
Feels good. Like it.
Yeah, I know we didn't get the floor done. I know you're like.
No, I'm not looking-
No,
I'm
I
not
feel the
looking at the floor.
condemning thoughts in your
Oh
head.
my gosh.
I feel the condemning
It's
thoughts in your head.
not.
I did. I
I
was
like
like,
that wall over
you-
there. That's a nice wall.
That's narrated did that. Narrated did that. Yeah,
She's
narrated
another artist
Vasquez.
in this building.
You can like shoot to that wall. It'd be very cool.
Yes.
We will, and the green screen. Tomorrow we'll also have Bob Bilski. If you guys haven't seen any of Bob's photography, really great photographer. Very often
David
he's
Miller too.
Yeah.
Pete.
Yeah.
David Miller.
David
Great
Miller's
singer.
going to be here tonight. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So you tell me where else in Rochester that you can get all of this, and we'll have food.
What did he say over there? What was that from the peanut gallery?
There was no food here tonight.
Well, actually there is, but we won't talk about food that came out tonight.
Whenever,
All right,
whenever
so
we
we
have
will-
food, someone has to crawl across the floor from the kitchen.
All right, so we are out of here, and we will be back momentarily with Real Talk 360. And of course, always remember Lexington Federal Credit Union. They're the ones out there helping this community grow. They're the ones who are actually out there investing into the people and teaching, reaching, doing whatever we need to do. Come on down to our studio if you've got a business that you're thinking about growing. We're here to help. Talk to you later.